Guys, I have been doing the language challenge where I've been speaking in Portuguese in the evenings. My dog is here. If she starts being weird, that's what's going on. But tonight I wanted to talk about like sign language, and I'm not. So I always say I'm not fluent in anything but English, but I love learning and practicing languages and getting better and communicating with people and learning and all of that stuff. So, um, specifically to sign language, a friend posted, Jennifer, she posted about Nicaraguan sign language, and there's some really cool history with the kids developing their own sign language, and I'm at a deaf school, and it getting more and more developed as generations of the kids went on. I remember right, they learned more and more of the grammar, and like kind of taught themselves, and so it's just a really neat thing about how sign language kind of developed in some areas. And that's true. There's a lot of areas that have unique sign languages. And then someone else posted some really cool videos, and it reminded me of a couple different stories. There's three specifically. Stop. You're gross. My dog likes to lick. I think all dogs do, but the sound is weird. But in Brazil, I remember that I don't know the Portuguese alphabet, even though I can speak okay Portuguese. But I remember in Brazil, a lot of people seemed to know sign language, or at least knew the alphabet, and it seemed like more than in America, but maybe a lot of people do know the alphabet here, and you just don't need it. But since I didn't know the alphabet, like when you get receipts there, you put your name on them when you go into the restaurant or bar or whatever you're at, and then you bring the receipt out with you, and that's how you pay. You keep track of it all night, and so you put your name on it. And so when I was telling people at the restaurants like what my name was, I'd say it in Portuguese, and then which is just pronounced a little different. But then I would finger spell it in Libras, which is Brazilian sign language. It's pretty similar to American, but the F, the first letter of my name, in American Sign Language is actually a swear word. So I no, Rose, stop. But I'd sign my name for them to write it out. And then there were also times where people would be speaking Portuguese to me and I wouldn't understand a word, so I'd have them finger spell it in Libras. And I could read the word in Spanish and then understand. I could read the Spanish, figure out the meaning, and then respond in Portuguese. And so it's really interesting how it just worked. And I don't really know why or how that is, but it was really interesting to knowing enough American Sign Language to be able to do both of those things was really beneficial. And then another time, even though Libras is different, like I said, the letter F in English in American Sign Language is the F word in Brazilian Sign Language. There's also different things there's a few other words that are different as well. But also that's the same with, it was either Indo-Paki or Bengali Sign Language. I don't know which. It was a friend in West Bengal, India, who spoke Bengali, a little bit of Hindi, but not much, but mostly Bengali. Our sign languages were different, but we were able to communicate, which was cool because I was kind of the only American he could really talk to because of the sign language. And we were both artists at the art school, and at the market one time we were arguing in sign language, so we were 20 feet away. And he was yelling in Bengali and I was yelling in English, but we were using sign language to actually communicate because he was deaf, but he could voice. And so, so it was just really funny. But again, it's a different sign language, but it worked. We were able to communicate just fine, even though we both knew different sign languages. And that was when I worked with deaf kids at the time. And so my sign language was much better then. And a third story, so since we've lived where we're at, I'm not really around anyone. In the last year in Laramie, last year before we moved here too, I worked at a treatment center for kids that are deaf, specifically with girls there. And so I learned to speak and sign at the same time, but not actual ASL. So that's what I'm actually working on now is ASL, sentence structure. But then the last year in Laramie, I worked at a place where I had a couple students that were hard of hearing. And so I would sign, but then they would voice back. And so I didn't get practice reading it. And so my reading sign language is pretty mediocre. I also signed for church, but again, that's just me signing songs and music, not me practicing reading. And so I was at a African market halal store in our city, and a woman from Iraq was there, and she was there, and I could sign to her, And she was deaf, but again, she voiced. I don't know if she lost her hearing as an adult or whatnot, but one sec. Okay, hopefully, no, now she's coming. We'll see if she gets not obnoxious. but yeah, so I was able to sign to her, and then she spoke Arabic to her husband, and then her husband spoke Somali to an older Somali man who then spoke, or no, her husband spoke Arabic. How did it go? Oh no, now I don't remember. She spoke Arabic to her husband. Her husband spoke Somali to no, sorry. Okay, she did I did sign language to her, and then she spoke to her husband in Arabic. He spoke to a Somali guy in Somali. The Somali spoke to another Somali. No, I don't remember, but there were 5 people, and then the Somali spoke, the other Somali spoke English to me. And so it was like this triangle, or like the circle of communication where her and I were having a conversation, but it went through like 3 other people to have the conversation. Actually, no, she didn't voice. She signed to her husband, and then her husband spoke Arabic to the Somali, and then he spoke in Somali to the other Somali who spoke English to me. That's how it worked. She signed to her husband because I couldn't read her signs. So that got really confusing. But yeah, we were talking about these stories online, and I thought it'd be fun to share the stories. So I'm going to share this with my friend, but also share this on the conversations on Facebook. I'm also going to share this on Instagram for the language challenge, even though it's not speaking in anything but English. But it is a language video for you guys. So I hope that you found this interesting. I'm curious, do you guys speak any sign languages? Do you find them valuable outside of just knowing it? What has been your experience with sign language or sign languages? And yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about it. So bye. I'll see you around.